All right, bring down the terrace energy read. Um, I was doing my cut, and these fell out. I haven't even flipped them over, so I'm going to take them face up. I don't know if that's in reverse. Let's see. Nope, only this one is in reverse. Well, let's see. Are they all in reverse? So it's only the devil app is in reverse. Um, I call it a devil app, but it's really just the method that I encountered personally, and that I saw where the Coulter Coven that I encountered, and also what I believe is a terrorist group operating here in the U.S. It's the method that they like get people to bind their souls to like a dark entity or Satan in some cases. So I've talked about it before. It worked like this. I applied for a job, not sure where. Somebody texted my regular cell phone and they said, are you still looking for a job? I said, yes. They said, reach out through WhatsApp. I went into WhatsApp, we texted back and forth, and they said, okay, the job is simple tasks like I was just marking stars on products that would be posted on Amazon. So I'm guessing it was supposed to boost the ratings of certain products. So when people go to search for them, like they show up as, the highest rated or the most relevant. And then after the person, we were only texting. We never video call. We were texting. So the person, towards the end, they were like, okay, you'll be doing tasks such as this. And the amount of money I ended up making, it was a weekly amount, but I calculated it would have been about $96,000 a year just to supposedly complete tasks such as sitting around all day giving products 5 stars over and over and over. So the person said, okay, in order to be paid, you have to agree. They said, do you agree that you won't decline any tasks? And do you agree to bind yourself to a merchant? When they said bind, I immediately was thinking slavery. Closed out of the app, exited, and I said, no, 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 there's something weird going on here. This is odd. And then that was the very beginning of my gang stalking and my interaction with this Coulter Coven. And I found out later that that method is the method that this Coulter Coven uses to get unsuspecting citizens to quote unquote bind themselves to a merchant. The merchant, I believe, is either like Satan, a demonic entity, or the merchant that they bind themselves to, like the owner of whatever business, is bound to Satan or a demonic entity. So, in essence, with this process, someone is agreeing to bind or give themselves over to Satan or a dark entity, and they don't even know it. Because it's like, okay, do you agree to bind yourself to a merchant? They don't say who the merchant is. But if the merchant is Satan, then this is how they are tricking citizens into selling their soul. That easy. Once the person receives the first payment, that's it. Like, you've sold your soul. Even if you were tricked, but that's how it works. So this is in reverse. I have been talking about this process, and I believe maybe people weren't aware that something like that was a way to get tricked into selling your soul. But once they get you to bind yourself to a merchant and agree you won't decline any tasks, the tasks start out easier, and I believe eventually that the tasks get harder. I believe that the people who were gang stalking me and who were committing criminal acts against me may have been bound through this process. And so, in essence, since they quote unquote sold themselves or agreed to bind themselves, then they were obligated to not decline any tasks. I believe that there's some sort of a punishment for people who decline tasks. I believe that it's physical and something in the spiritual. Like in the community where I was, I believe that like somehow after you agree to bind yourself, that they had a way to affect your finances. Like they had a gang stalking network that would make you a target if you declined a task until you finally like gave in. Like I believe it would like mess with your money. Like they would do something with your bank accounts, or you know, you would go to get money out the ATM, it would be down, or you would go to swipe your card, it would be declined. I'm not sure how they had it, but it was a community like that where like they had a way to network all of the POS systems and ATMs. It's a smaller city where I was, to where if you were to decline a task, they could basically like stop you from being able to access money. They could do things to your food, and they would use this gang stalking network as a way to enforce people not declining any tasks. The other thing I believe is spiritually, since these people are Satanists, that they also dabble in black magic. I believe they may also do spells or rituals on people to like mess with their mind mentally, like do mental magic, make them see things or hallucinate, things like that. I've been talking about this. I posted a video on my Facebook, like I believe April, and then April or May, and then I've been talking about it in my reading. It's in reverse. It's in reverse. What that tells me, and I believe I know who the software developer is, but I've mentioned that. I won't mention it on this channel, but this is in reverse, which tells me that the right people have been listening, and hopefully the right people are looking in. Because what happens when you give a reading is basically there's a seed planted in the spiritual realm, and it may take time to manifest in the physical realm. But this card being in reverse, I didn't even know any of my cards were in reverse. Somehow maybe it fell on the floor, I don't know. It being reversed tells me that spiritually this is over with. This is dead and gone. The way that they were getting people to sell their, it's over with. If it's in the spirit, then it's going to manifest. So we have that devil app. We have, and all of these were fake. See, all of these are upright. So we have minion. A minion is just like, to me, like a follower, a sheep, someone who's willing to do anything that they're told. Like they don't stand for anything. It's like they are powerless. They obey and they do as they're told. Look, offer you can't refuse. That's crazy. So this devil app is in reverse for minions that were accepting offers they can't refuse. So anyone who inadvertently, quote unquote, sold their soul to this app and they bound themselves to this dark entity, this is in reverse, which means that if you were being assigned tasks that you were uncomfortable with, that were in, this is in reverse. Whoever is doing that, whoever is orchestrating that, whoever is behind that, it is in reverse. It may not be, you may not see the results today, tomorrow, or you could, or it's coming. So you being forced to complete tasks you don't feel uncomfortable with, or worry about consequences, or worry about the enforcements by this gang stalking network that they have to enforce that people, you know, blindly obey tasks that are assigned through like an app. Like that's over. Control of humanity. Yep. That was what they were trying to do. Whether people know it or not, that's what they were trying to do. Get control over humanity. Look, I have my card here. This explains the 5-year plan. It was supposed to start with a religious group. So first they trick you, you thinking it's a job. You think like, oh, okay, I'm buying it to a cult or covenant, or I sold my soul. They start off like getting like a religious group, that's the cult, and then they move to the community, right? They get like, they spread it out. They want the community. Then they go and they get a whole town, then a city, then a whole state, and then the U.S. I talked about this before. I channeled it. They had a 30-year plan. And they did it just like this. Basically, the plan was get people to bind themselves, so get people to willingly give away their power, and then when they disobey a task, they make these people targeted individuals of a gang stalking network. You'll have to look up what gang stalking is, but it's literally like making your life a living hell. And the thing is they have plenty of people to participate in it. Everywhere you go, everything you do, it's difficult, or it's like everything that can go wrong does go wrong. It's eventually to the point where people are like, okay, like I'll do it, if that makes sense. Because it's like, you have to feed your family, you have to work. Like at one point when I was being gang stalked the worst, I had a baby. They would like they were clearing all of his brand of formula off the shelf, like, and you would have to have been gang stalked before to know. And the reason I say that, if it was just that one thing by itself, then I would say like, okay, but it was a lot of things like that. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. But the purpose of this devil app was to gain control over humanity. Like, it was to start off with like a small group. They started off as a cult. That cult branched out and did outreach to the community, then to a town, then to a city, then to a state, and then to the US. And they plan to take control over humanity just like that. I'm getting that some of the head of the cult group that I experienced. This may not be who's the leaders, but from the community where I was, I'm getting that the head cult leader or the head cult leaders were Russian. We have handler. A handler is really like somebody who, they aren't a minion, like they aren't necessarily blindly obeying. A handler is somebody that's on the payroll for the cult. Like they're on the payroll for the cult, and they are paid like they're paid to do certain tasks. They aren't forced. So these handlers are actually in agreement with what this cult or this group is trying to do. They're in agreement with this terrorist group on their plan to control humanity. So they actually work for the group. We have a handler. Then we have disassociation. So in the current energy, there is a handler who is in the energy of disassociation from this scheme. Yeah. So this handler, this person, whoever this is that was willingly, they may be watching my video, and that may be how they, but this person, this handler, like they are in the energy of disassociation from this scheme. I'm getting this handler may be someone like that was in like the technical part of, not the app part, but I believe that handler like maybe ran the gang stalking network, if that makes sense. So without the gang stalking network to enforce consequences of declining tasks, people are able to gain control of their life, of their power, and they're able to say no. So even if these people did agree to bind themselves to a merchant and inadvertently didn't know that they were selling their soul, now if they're assigned a task, I'm getting the person who ran the gang stalking, like the enforcement, that person is no longer working with this group. I'm actually getting that person, I don't believe they knew what this group was doing. I believe that person thought that this was some sort of a religious group, and that this religious group was like doing something righteous, and that these targets that were being gang stalked were maybe people that they said were demonic or evil, or were doing black magic, or were bringing curses to the community, something like that. So this person who was the enforcer running the gang stalking network, I'm getting they may have watched this. If they do, great. But somehow this person, they no longer believe in whatever this is. They are realizing it makes perfect sense that what these people are trying to do is get control over humanity. And this person is no longer agreeing to be the enforcer running that gang stalking network. So people no longer have to worry about consequences if they decline a task, and they should never have had to. Like, no terms of any job should be that you can't decline any task. Like, that's ridiculous, because where this ends up entering the energy of a terrorist group is because they fashion themselves as a religious group, like for a righteous purpose, but then they have people committing criminal acts. That is the definition of domestic terrorism. The criminal acts part, that's terrorism. So when you get in the energy of you're assigning tasks where people have to commit criminal acts, that is terrorism. Here we have terrorist acts, scare tactics, non-hostile takeover. So the terrorist acts, it comes into a terrorist act if you are forced to commit a criminal task for this culture coven. That is a terrorist act. That is what anyone who participates in this is doing. It is a terrorist act. Then they use scare tactics. They use scare tactics, just like I said, like they block you from buying things at the store. They maybe have people follow you around. Maybe they have people, just do little annoying things that are supposed to scare you, to the point where you say, okay, I give in. I'll complete whatever task that it is. But they use scare tactics in order for people to agree to whatever the task is that they want to decline. Chances are they're getting them to agree to tasks that are criminal acts for a religious group. It then becomes a terrorist act. They use scare tactics to enforce it, and the plan was for this non-hostile takeover for them to control humanity. I have another card, like I channeled it. They had a 30-year plan. They've been working on this from 2000 to 2030. And the plan was to start off with little religious groups, cults, like in areas, move out to the community, then a town, then a larger city, then a state, then the U.S. And then when they got to the point where they were ready to activate all of their sleeper agents, then people would be, look, it's at the bottom of the deck. When they got ready to activate all of these citizens turned terrorists, everybody would be in so much fear of them, they wouldn't dare decline a task. All right, guys, that's my Bring Down the Terrorist read. Good day. God bless.